just to review a few things that we discussed today, in terms of pressure management, we really want to make sure that we're getting a full expansion 360 into the back, right, into the side rib cage, as well as into the front. So if you think about pressure is going to go to the path of least resistance. And typically what we see is breathing mechanics putting a lot of force down on your pelvic floor, right? So we think about, yes, your inhalation is going to relax the pelvic floor, but I'm talking about more of the exhalation or exertion. Thinking if when we sneeze or when we cough, a lot of times we put a lot of force down, right, down on the pelvic floor, where that can increase leaking when we sneeze or cough. So it's just, can we control the pressure? Full expansion. Again, the other one was, right, thinking about trying not to push out, and that can lead into some of the coning that we discussed, where your linea alba is already stretched from the six-pack muscle, just due to having a baby, just due to the anatomy, and it's designed that way, right? That's how the female body, even the males can have a diastasis. Just the linea alba has that separation. The fascia is thinner than muscle. So when force gets put on it, saying baby, uterus, it's naturally going to be weaker. So we need to be mindful of where our pressure is going. So again, getting up and out of bed or getting off the floor, we're not doing that jackknife. We're not just kind of throwing our legs up, to make sure we roll it to the side, take the extra second. And I know you can, right? I still remember my days during pregnancy. You can get off the floor until we're a little bit later, maybe like 35 plus weeks, when baby is so big and it's literally hard to get past baby. From there, right, your round ligament attaches from, right, the uterus down to the pubic bone, and that's where we may feel a lot of pubic pain or a pulling sensation when we go into an extension or when we're kind of getting out of bed and those sudden movements. So again, it's taking that extra second to slow down, exhale, breathe. And with the round ligament pain, some of my clients, they do really well with stretching. I'm not saying I want you to think about just fully stretching here, but going into some of our Pilates poses or some of our yoga poses, right, where you're getting a nice side stretch, a nice side bend, whether it's a windmill or a Z-set. Others do really well with stabilizing the pelvis in terms of your core and pelvic position. So again, with baby, naturally our pelvis starts to dip forward and our rib cage starts to flare. Already this position is going to put stress on the round ligament. So thinking, we talked about rib cage over toes with that slight little bit of lean forward. Now it's not that I want you to walk with a lean forward. It's almost having that over exaggeration cue in your head to have a closed system or a stacked system. And then for your rotation, right, internal and external rotation are really important in terms of labor. And sometimes we forget about the internal rotation, using your adductors, using your deep core to help rotate. And what that does again is it opens up the pelvic outlet to help baby descend more. So we think about, as we go into internal, so it's a little counterintuitive, right? If I'm pushing out, it looks like it's external, but it's the pelvis kind of rotating forward and thinking we're on a fixed femur. So your thigh bone's going to be here. It's not going to be moving. Your pelvis is going to move on the femur. Same thing would happen if your femur moves on your pelvis. But again, we want to think about how can we control your pelvis on a fixed leg. So with that, if you think about our sit bones, in terms of our pelvic floor too, so think about pelvic floor is going to be your diaphragm down below. Either your thumbs or your fingers will be the front part. So let's say my fingers are going to be the front part. That's going to be your pubic symphysis bone. So this guy right here in front. The corners of the thumb and your finger are going to be your sit bones, where a lot of our muscles attach. Then on the back end, where my thumbs are, that's going to be your coccyx. So if you think, I'm in the bottom here, having my triangle, front part, pubic symphysis, side parts are going to be my sit bones, and then that back piece is going to be your coccyx. And so what we think about is, as we internally rotate, looking at these two pieces here, they're going to widen. And that's going to open up the pelvic outlet for helping baby descend down. Our external rotation, coming in, you can see, right, your sit bones come closer together. And that's not saying you can't give birth on your back in external rotation, right? You think about a deep squat. Deep squat, you're coming down, you're in external rotation. That's going to help relax the pelvic floor. It's just making sure we have the mobility into internal and external rotation, that we can move through those positions during labor, even if we have an epidural, right? Whether you're going from a sideline position, from a squat position to an all fours position, to on your back. You just have the flexibility, your pelvis can move. It has the fluidity to go into different positions to help with the descent of baby down. Again, if you want to talk about just some of the muscles, the first layer is going to be more of your sexual function. Underneath that is going to be more of your sphincteric, so think about your urethra as well as your anal sphincter, where we're kind of the control of voiding and not voiding. And then you have your pelvic diaphragm. So this is where really has a lot of the support of all your pelvic organs. Uterus, bladder, everything's gonna sit and put a pressure on here. And so thinking again in terms of your diaphragm and your pelvic floor, they're gonna move in unison. So as you inhale, diaphragm is going to expand down, pelvic floor is gonna expand down. That's our relaxation phase. So if we do any of our cat-camels, we do any of our breathing, having the visualization to inhale, feel, it's hard, feel your pelvic floor relax. Sometimes people like to sit on a hard surface, whether that's a yoga block or just the floor, to give them some feedback. And then as you exhale, right, diaphragm is going to recoil as your pelvic floor lifts. So just having some of those concepts in mind. And again, feel free to send me an email, any questions if nothing was clear enough.